possible that that person has 6. Or if someone discards 8, it's likely that that person has 5. That could be the reason why 8 was discarded. Keep in mind that this tip becomes more and more reliable as we get closer to the middle tile. Because 9 could be discarded for a lot of reasons. They may not have 6. Because 9 terminal tiles are pretty useless. So they might get discarded without, even if they don't have 6. But when 8 was discarded, it's more than likely that they have 5. Or when 7 was discarded, it's possible that they already have 4. Right? So the last tip is a little bit involving. And this needs an introduction to several Japanese terms. Sumogiri, tedashi, and haragiri. Sumogiri means that you discard the tile that you have just drawn. Right? Sumo means draw, giri means cut, discard. Right? Sumogiri, discard, draw and discard. Draw it and discard at the same time. Tedashi is the opposite, is the antonym of sumogiri. It means discard a tile from your hand. Right? Discard something that is not the tile that you draw. Right? Te means hand. Dashi means put something out from or put something out of. Right? Haragiri is a special case of tedashi. Haragiri is where you're trying to fake sumogiri, or fake tedashi. So kara means fake and giri means discard. So this is where you have like 5, 6, 7. You draw 5, and then you discard 5 from your hand, rather than discarding the one that you draw. Right? So now that we got the terminology, the general advice, general principle that you should stick with, when you have a choice, you should never do karagiri. You should not do karagiri. Because tedashi, discarding something from your hand, gives out information. And giving out information to your opponents is usually a bad thing. I'm not talking about manners or etiquette. I'm talking purely on strategic terms. Giving out information is just plain bad. So you should not do it most of the time. There are some rare, really rare occasions where giving out information might help you, but most of the time, no. So, for example, when you draw 3, don't just discard the tile that you draw. Just do sumogiri. Do not ever discard 3 from your own hand, because then opponents will know that you had 3 before. Why did you keep the 3? It's probably because you had something, your weights are something in the neighborhood of that. So don't give out information, just draw 3 as soon as possible. Don't even think. If you draw 3 and look at your hands and pause, oh, maybe I should do a shampoo weight, and then discard 3, that will also give out information. The moment you realize that it's 3, just discard it. Right? Do sumogiri. As an observer, right? When you're observing other people, and try to pay attention to the opponent's sumogiri and tedashi behaviors, right? But you can never observe karagiri, right? You can observe tedashi, and you can guess if it was karagiri or true tedashi, right? And this becomes critical when you do open hand reading. So I'll talk a lot more about this in the book. But I'm going to see how this tedashi sumogiri can be useful. So before that, another concept needs to be introduced. A related concept related to karagiri is swapping. When you draw 5, you can discard 8, right? Because that's a switch tile of 5, and 8 is safer, so you can do that. And when you do that, it's called swapping. Discarding a tile that is a switch tile of the one that you draw, right? Because you're swapping. If you discard this one from the hand, that would be karagiri. That's bad. If you discard this, that would be sumogiri. Right. So how can swapping and karagiri be useful? I mean, the tip 6 is about karagiri and swapping. And when you notice that someone did karagiri, then you can know that one more copy of that tile is in the opponent's hand for obvious reasons. Right? That's why they could do karagiri. If you detect swapping, you can also know that they have certain that the opponents have the suji of the discarded tile, and that information can come in handy. So I will show you the example of situations where tip 6 can be applied. But the question is, how can we tell if the opponent did karagiri or swapping? The key here is that you need to pay attention to unnatural discard. And here are 2 examples of unnatural discards. Right? So when a tile discarded from their hand completes a sequence or set in the discard pond, and that's likely to be karagiri. So for example, after discarding 3p and 5p, someone discards 4p, then that's likely to be karagiri. Because he had no reason to have kept 4p after discarding 3p and 5p. A few turns after discarding 3p and 5p, it's likely to be this 4p is likely to be from a sequence. He has some 3, 4, 5 or 4, 5, 6. In addition to the discarded 3 and 5, right? Another thing that you might pay attention to is when someone discards the same copy of tile a few turns after discarding another copy. Like discarding 2p first, and then a few turns later discard another 2p. That is likely to suggest that he did karagiri or swapping. He draw 5 and discarded 2, or draw 2 and discarded 2 from within the hand. So, just a summary. Discard order, 3 first and 1 next, suggests that 1, 2, 3, 4 is not likely to be held. Suji of an early discard is likely to be held. Karagiri and swapping, once you detect them, it suggests that these tiles are held. Let's use these to let's make use of these to make a decision. Here we have a tepai, mangan or 7-7. Oh no, 1-6 because I'm the dealer, right? So the choice here is between 3 and 7, right? Or 4 and 6, and wait on 4 or wait on 6, right? If you just stick with the digital theory, since 1, 4 is out, 3 copies of 4 pin are invisible, whereas 4 copies of 6 pin are invisible. So discarding 3 to wait on 6 might seem better, but let's do deduction. Let's think about what kind of tiles are held by the opponents. Look, this is 3-1. 3 first, then 1, suggesting that he doesn't have 4. He's not likely to have 4, right? Also, discarding 3 means that he might have 6 already, right? So the likely shape that he had may be 1, 3, 5, 6. From 1, 3, 5, 6, you discard 3 first, right? 1, 3, 1, 3, 5, 6. Yeah, 3 and 5, 1. Here, this is very unnatural, assuming that these are both tedashi. He had discarded 8 in turn 2, and then he discarded 8 again. That's very suspicious. So it's the likely scenario is that he had 6, 7, 8, and draw 8, and discarded 8 from the hand, or draw 5 and discarded 8. So this 8 is unlikely to be an isolated 8. This is likely to be connected in his hand, was connected in his hand. So he's likely to have 6, 7, 8, or 5, 6, 7 in this hand. So 1 copy of 6 is probably here. 1 copy of 6 might be here, right? And this 4 suggests that he's not likely to have another 4, right? 4 is probably an isolated 4. Or if anything, it could be 4, 6, 7. If that's the case, you discard 4, right? So they might have 6. They might have 6. He's really likely to have 6, right? So many copies of 6 are already are possibly used up by opponents, whereas there is a clear evidence that 4 is not used by anyone. So you'd rather discard 7 to wait on 4 people, right? Okay, so I think I can sense that everyone is getting tired, and this is the end of the deduction section. So I'll just wrap up by talking about what you might want to do after the seminar to get even better. So I think I think everyone would agree that we need to play a lot to get better. At the same time, you also need to study strategies. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why we need to play a lot, as well as learning strategies. By talking about the nature of the game, and I also would like to emphasize the point that reviewing games and discussing games with your friends and will also be helpful. So I think any games, mind sports or physical sports, any games and sports can be classified, can be grouped by looking at 3 types of skills. Manipulation skills, like how you accurately or how you move your body fast or accurately or beautifully, or cognition skills, how to collect information about your environment, or things like dynamic vision, right? And judgment, how to analyze information and strategize. So for example, chess is exclusively about judgment, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how fast you move the pieces, and it doesn't really matter. And cognition really doesn't matter at all either. I mean, all the information is there, and it's easy to grab. Short distance sprint is exclusively about manipulation. Doesn't matter how smart you are, right? You just run, right? Doesn't matter how good an eyesight you have, right? Cognition doesn't matter, right? It's purely manipulation. But some games, some sports will require some combination. Like golf requires manipulation and judgment. you need to accurately swing the ball, and you need to strategize, right? Which clubs to use. And combination doesn't matter that much. Like, ball is just there. You don't need a lot of skills to identify where the ball is. It doesn't move, right? Marathon also requires both manipulation and judgment. You need to distribute, where you spar, how to distribute your stamina, things like that. And obviously you need manipulation, your movement of the body. And some sports will require a combination of all. Right? Tennis requires that you have really good dynamic vision because balls are moving fast. You also need judgment. You also need manipulation, obviously, or football. Right? Poker probably it's mostly about judgment. I mean, if you think about it, you might need some skills to read poker face. But I don't think that plays that big of a role in poker. It's more about judgment, right? What about mahjong? So manipulation won't matter. Doesn't matter how fast you draw the tile or how beautifully you discard the tile. I mean, I like practicing discarding tiles, but manipulation doesn't really matter, right? Judgment matters. Judgment is important. That's why you need to study theories, but maybe not as much as you might think, because luck plays a huge role in mahjong. Right? Judgment is important, but oftentimes, no matter what you decide, you just don't get lucky, right? I think cognition is what distinguishes mahjong from other types of mind games. It is important that you recognize what other people are doing, right? Read the discard pawn and realize when another player is doing kokshi or flash hand, points hand, or likely to have expensive hand, or recognize the tile shapes quickly in the hand, recognize the 5 blocks in the hand quickly, because it's a fast-paced environment, right? So count the number of blocks and identify the redundant tiles. And these things will require repetitive plays, repetitive exercises. Right? So just studying to get a better judgment is usually not enough. You need better cognition ability. And to get better cognition ability, you need to play a lot, but just playing a lot passively is not going to be enough. You need to make a conscious effort to get to improve your cognition ability. Right? Try to pay attention to the discards of the others. You should try to guess what the other players are doing, what kind of tiles are being held, what kind of tiles are likely to be in the wall. And these things will require a lot of training and conscious training. And the question might be, how can we play a lot? And I think what the way to go for most of us would be to play online, or more specifically play Tenho. I know that most people hate Tenho's forced place avoidance. I don't like it either. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So on Tenho, the most important thing is to avoid fourth, right? Because fourth gets punished a lot, right? But that may not be the feature that you like, but don't use that as an excuse not to play, or some people might think that the live mahjong is easier because you can easily concentrate, or they play with red fives and they pawn and chi like madness, and you don't like it, and it's all luck and blah blah blah. Or I don't. Tenho is only in Japanese, and I read Japanese. But these are all both BS executions. I mean, you can easily follow the game without reading Japanese, right? As long as you know a few words like ponchi, riichi. I mean, the fourth place avoidance means that there will be some exceptional situations where theories don't apply. But as long as you understand that, there isn't really a big difference between non-Tenho Mahjong and Tenho Mahjong. And the types of opponents that you can get on Tenho is probably much more, enjoyable. I mean, I like playing with strong players, and on average Tenho players are probably much stronger than players that you can find in Europe, including myself. So it's really the way to go. And yeah, I mean, it also has a lot of other nice features. You can have all the game record set up, so you can show the tile history, your game records to other players and ask for advice. You can have strategy discussion, like what would you discard discussion with other people, and you will get an opportunity to explain yourself, right? People might ask, why did you do this? And you might have to explain your thought process, and that will be a perfect opportunity for you to formulate your thoughts or reorganize your thoughts, and that I think will help you improve. I think it also helps if you write about your Mahjong play, like Mark is doing, write a blog entry or an article or books. I think writing my book will help me get better as well. So I think these there are a lot of online forums or fora where you can go and have fellow players to discuss things with. There is a competitive Discord server called Competitive Riichi Hub, where very serious people got together. And there is also a Mahjong Discord channel that's more general. So this is more relaxed server. And some hardcore people got unhappy that they're too relaxed. They're more serious Mahjong player. They only care about getting better. So they started a new server that's for only for serious people. I mean, I'm a member of both.